Okay, so welcome back. Today we will quickly go through the three sector economy, and in this, of course, the important thing is the government spending function. As you well know, that function means if something is a function of something else, it means that it is dependent on something else. So, what is we saw the consumption function, okay, and we said that the consumption function was dependent upon autonomous consumption and induced consumption. Please do keep in mind that in the case of the government, there is no such thing as induced government spending. Nothing can induce the government to spend more. So, in the case of the government, its spending is dependent upon its own policy, its own preferences, and its own ideology. So, here there is no induced element. Okay. Uh, Yes, if there is any change in the demand for merit goods or public goods, and the government feels that it needs to finance more, then that is not induced by any income. It's just part of government's policy. So the government spending function will not be upward sloping. It's just going to be G naught. So G is equal to G naught in the case of government spending, and the government spending function is going to be a horizontal line to the x-axis always. Yes, in case the government feels more should be spent on merit goods and public goods, it will increase its expenditure autonomously. And if it feels less should be spent, then it's going to reduce its expenditure or autonomously. All right. So that is the important thing. Where does the government find the money to finance its spending? Well, the main thing are the taxes which are levied on individuals and firms, but they also find the money through borrowing and the sale of their assets through privatization and stuff like that. But in this video, the main source of financing is taxation, and that is what we are going to look into in a bit of detail. Please do watch this video in conjunction with the another video which I made on uh, the canons of taxation. Please watch that as well. All right. So, what is taxation then? Taxation is a compulsory contribution that you make towards towards the public exchequer, and the citizens spend this money. They give the tax in expectation of something that they will get in return. So, it is a compulsory contribution. The purpose of tax, there are various purpose of taxes. The government, it becomes the revenue of the government. All right. And developed countries depend mainly on tax. The underdeveloped countries, the less developed countries can get grants, they can get loans from agencies, but the developed countries don't do that. They mainly rely on tax as their source of revenue, the government. All right. Another purpose of the tax is to bring about income redistribution, to take money from the rich and to circulate it among the poorer sections. So, in the underdeveloped countries or in the less developed countries, income distribution has more of a pyramid shape. What is a pyramid shape? If you look at the economy, the majority of the people will be on the lower, in the lower stratas of society. Okay, the majority of the population will be workers. Then there will be a small percentage in the middle class, in the managerial positions, and then a very small percentage will be rich, and they will be very rich. So this is more of a pyramid shaped, and this pyramid shaped income distribution happens in less developed economies, whereas in the developed economies you have more of a diamond shape. What happens in a diamond shape? If a country wants to become developed from an LDC, the first sign is that it will develop a middle class, which will be a huge middle class. It will be more like a diamond shape. The poor will be less and the rich will be less. Majority of the people will fall in the middle class, and they will earn uh, decent incomes, and that will help the government put in place the progressive taxation system. What is the progressive taxation system? The richer you are, the higher percentage tax you pay. Okay. And when there is the middle class, and there's a large middle class, and they are paying a lot of taxes, then the government is also in a position to give exemptions to the poor. Okay. So the government doesn't bother with the very poor, it will give tax exemptions to the poor. Okay. It will tax luxuries more. Okay. In certain cases, taxes are returned. There are negative taxes also in some developed countries. Okay. In fact, the government in certain cases can give subsidies, it can give money back to those who are the very poor. All right. And it can carry out its income maintenance schemes in various areas. Another thing that the government does with taxation is it fights inflation. Now, just keep in mind what happens, but please do keep in mind that when you tax people, their disposable income goes down. When their disposable income goes down, they will be demanding less goods, and hence demand pull inflation will fall. But please do keep in mind this applies only to direct taxes. We will discuss direct and indirect taxes in a bit. Okay. Indirect taxes usually increase inflation rather than reducing it, because they increase the price of the product. Another thing that the government uses the taxes for is to correct the balance of payment. If there are a lot of imports coming into your country, and because of that your imports are more and exports are less, then what happens? The government imposes a tariff tax duty, and that will help reduce the trade imbalance. It will make the imports less competitive, more expensive, and they will be it will be difficult for the imports to compete with the locally produced products, and hence people will demand locally produced products rather than imported products. Okay. The government can also put high taxes on cigarettes and liquor. It can use taxes to protect infant industry at home. And in certain countries like Singapore, the government removes relief for the children, in order to um, it gives relief to parents who have children. But when it removes the relief from the children, that means that it is actually discouraging the increase of population. So where does it find the money to give this relief? That also through taxation. So taxation is used to influence population as well. Okay. It reallocates resources. Lower tax on certain goods means, now do bring into mind your knowledge of supply. When the goods are taxed more, what happens? Supply decreases. So what happens? The government reduces the tax on certain goods in the hope that by reducing the tax, the profit of the producer will rise, and he will be interested in producing more of the product, and the expansion will take place in the supply of the product. Okay. uh, of course, when people pay taxes, they become proud that they are contributing to to the economy of their country. Please do keep in mind that there are two types of taxes. There are direct taxes and there are indirect taxes. Direct taxes are those taxes which are directly traceable to their source. Where is the tax coming from? It is directly traceable to the source. For example, income tax. Where is the tax coming from? I know it's coming from income. It's directly traceable to the source. Second, it's coming from, if it's wealth tax, it's coming from where? It's coming from my wealth. So I know the source where it's coming from. Okay. Please keep in mind, direct tax you will pay when you earn, indirect tax you will pay when you spend. Okay. So by its very nature, direct tax is progressive, because the more you're earning, the more you're paying. And the indirect tax is regressive. It always hits the poorer sections of the society worse than it hits the richer sections. Okay. So this is about direct and indirect taxes. uh, uh, in a sense, direct taxes, if you do not pay direct taxes, then in many countries there are very heavy penalties that you'll have to pay. There are cases where influential people have evaded taxes and they have been to jail. But please do keep in mind that tax evasion is one thing, tax avoidance is something completely different. In a tax avoidance system, there are legal ways in which people can pay less taxes. So the law allows it. For example, I'll just give you an example. You can you have bought an asset, you can depreciate it very quickly in the first 2 years or in the first year. When you depreciate it, what happens? Your uh, profits go down, but it's just a bookkeeping entry. Your profit goes down and you pay less taxes. You're allowed to do that. So that's tax avoidance. It's not a crime, it's a legal way of reducing your tax. But if you are supposed to pay a tax and you do not pay it, then that is tax evasion and that is a crime. Okay? So, uh, as I said, direct taxes are compulsory. They can fall into the category of income tax, property tax, corporate tax, uh, death duty tax, okay, inheritance tax, road tax, payroll tax. So these are the various forms that direct taxes can take, and there are various advantages. The government can increase it if it wants more revenue. It is convenient, as we know from the canons of taxation, that certainty and convenience is a very important thing in good taxes. It can be calculated with reasonable degree of accuracy. How much will a person pay? And when it is channeled from the rich to the poor, then it reduces reduces the inequality in the nation. Please also keep in mind direct taxes, because they are progressive in nature, they act as automatic stabilizers. What does it mean? If incomes rise, people will automatically pay higher taxes. That means they will have less disposable income, and demand pull inflation will not increase when incomes increase. So this is something that the governments have to keep in mind, that they tax people progressively so that growth does not lead to runaway inflation. But there are disadvantages also. It can be inconvenient for people to pay. Okay, many rich people. We can take the example of Qaid Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He was several years late in payment of his taxes. He paid all his taxes, but the one-time payment was so high that often rich people find it difficult to foot their taxes on time, because these taxes are extremely heavy, and they also reduce savings, which are very important for the development of the country. They require a lot of paperwork. Okay, so these are some of the things that you will write in the evaluation of direct taxes. Please now think about indirect taxes. As I told you, indirect taxes can be slightly problematic, and we will look at indirect taxes in the next video. Okay, thank you very much indeed.